Hey guys, DMS here. Today I have for you the DT770 80 ohm. Let's check it out. Now do me a favor, if you want to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel and ask me questions directly, you can on the Telegram chat, or you can get active in the community on Hi-Fi Guides. Just as a quick note, this review, the DT770 video, was actually filmed a few weeks ago before I had like a bunch of medical stuff and some other important channel announcements happen. So right after this video, I'm posting one with a lot of cool updates in it, so make sure you guys see that one. It's going to be awesome. Okay, back to the review. So this headphone was sent to me by Metal571. Thank you, Metal, for sending me this in. This is a headphone he's been using for quite a time. You can tell it is a bit worn. This is not a new headphone. Now, a long time ago, I reviewed the 250 ohm version of the DT770. I kind of hated it, but Metal convinced me to try the 80 ohm version instead, said it's different, and what do you know, he's right. This is different from the 250 ohm version, but is it any better? Well, let's talk about that. So, build-wise, it's a Bayer. It's gonna last a long time. It's not super flashy. As you can tell, this headphone's worn, but nothing has broken. These are pretty proven. The pads, while they look very similar to the DT880 and 990, are actually not quite the same. It is a stiffer foam on the inside. These don't compress quite as much, and they're not quite as soft, but the plus side is that this holds the headphone off of my ears better than the 880 and the 990 do. Ups and downs. Overall, I would say this is actually slightly more comfortable than the DT880 or DT990. Still no removable cable, which kind of sucks, but the cable doesn't seem to have frayed or gotten damaged over the years. That's at least good. Headband padding is changeable on these, but the stock padding, it's good enough. It could be a little bit better, but honestly, hard to complain at this price point. It's more comfortable than a few other closed backs I've tried. Not bad. Okay, let's talk about sound. Let's go through the lows, mids, and highs on this thing. Now bass, sub-bass is boosted, but in kind of the upper, I won't say like mid-bass or in the bloat regions, around 100 hertz, somewhere in the 100 hertz area, there's a bit of a dip in the bass. So you get a boosted sub-bass sound, but less impact. So it's kind of an odd presentation in the bass, because with that boosted sub-bass, the bass sometimes sounds boosted, but with less impact and less warmth, the bass can also sound a bit thin, so it goes back and forth. It's not a warm sounding headphone. The low mid range does not share the boosts that the bass has. So it actually has a little bit of a colder leaning timbre, I feel like, even with boosted sub bass, which is interesting. A cold bass boosted headphone. Vocal intimacy is not great, but vocal clarity is very good. Vocals can be a little bit thin because of the tonality of this headphone. And it is a bit V-shaped. The treble does lift up some, though not quite as much as in the 250 ohm version. It is still V-shaped. It's still a bit thin and a bit cold, but like I said, with a bass boost on top of that. Very strange sound. Interestingly enough, it does sound relatively neutral at a first glance. I'm not saying it's neutral. It's not neutral. It's V-shaped, but at first glance, it does sound a little bit neutral just because the lack of warmth and the lack of a major treble spike, because there are some treble spikes, but they're not massive, kind of give a little bit of the impression of that studio sound, which I see why, because these are used heavily for monitors. And as a monitor, it seems like this wouldn't be a bad choice. It's well articulated, and with that sub-bass boost, it will be pretty easy to hold a beat. But I certainly wouldn't use this for reference audio or for critical listening, analytical listening, as any sort of mixing reference. Soundstage, it does okay. There are other closed back headphones with more soundstage, but there'll always be some headphone that does something better. Imaging is nothing to write home about, but overall, I don't dislike it as much as I dislike the 250 ohm version. And there are times where I could see myself recommending this because detail is pretty good. It's not an overly offensive headphone. In fact, I wouldn't call it too much of an offensive headphone, period. It's just a bit of a traditional V-shape. This, detail-wise, lies somewhere in between the Tiger 300R and the DT880 600 ohm. It's not a bad headphone. So I will openly go on record and say, I was wrong about this revision of the DT770, but that's not all there is to it. There is a headphone that I like more than this, that costs less, that I think overall, aside from detail, is a better headphone. And that's this one. What did you think it was going to be? It's the K361. I've been talking about this thing a lot lately, and I love the K361 for $100. I will link this headphone in the video description. It's not built as well as the DT770. It's not as detailed as the DT770, but it's very comfortable, and the tuning is just great. It's just great. It's so well tuned. You get much more full-bodied vocals. You get much more of a rich sound out of the tuning of these. And I feel like that's kind of the biggest weak point of the DT770 is its thin timbre. It doesn't have much body to it. Once again, it's so weird to think of a headphone that's both thin sounding and bass boosted, but it's still capable. It still holds up. I did like it on tube amps, though it's low enough impedance that things like the Dark Voice struggled to give it too much volume. If you're a low volume listener, it can be pretty nice on tube amps. Most things can power it pretty easy, though I do recommend some sort of amplification for this. K361, you can just power this on anything. I'm gonna put this back. Probably sounds like a lot of negatives, but honestly, this is significantly more positive than my experience with the 250 ohm. And yeah, if you're looking for a headphone with these sort of timbre characteristics, a closed back with decent sound stage, pretty good comfort, durable build quality, a little bit of a sub-bass boost, and don't care much for warmth, you lean more on the cold or thin sounding side of things, DT770 80 ohm, not a bad option, but definitely avoid the 250 ohm model. Short and sweet, nothing crazy, but I wanted to set the record straight on how I felt about this headphone. I've updated it in my full headphones ranking list, so you can check that out there. This thing's score has been updated to reflect the 80 ohm model, and I think that's gonna wrap this video up. I gotta send these headphones back to metal. Really quick video. So guys, if you liked this quick video, please leave a like down below, a comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community, you can at forum.hifiguides.com. And as always, don't forget to stick around and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until next one, guys. Peace.